Okay, we're here in Chicago at SPN, and we're picking up Taylor Dawson. She's from the Beacon Center in Tennessee, and she's going to tell us a little bit about what they do there to get stuff done for public policy. Let's go.
We're back with another season of Policy Pizza, the show where we take you behind the scenes with the people who make public policy work. Some of the biggest things that affect all our lives are the ideas that end up in front of decision makers in business and government. So how do we get these super smart people to spend a few minutes with us? That's easy. Pizza. Each week, we'll sit down with an expert and find out about some of the most important ideas that are helping to make our world a better place.
Okay, well, we're here with Taylor Dawson, and you work at the Beacon Center.
Beacon Center of Tennessee.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's in Nashville.
In Nashville, beautiful place to live. Hot this time of year. I'm thankful to be in Chicago with you.
Yeah. So we're in Chicago for SPN conference, and that's a conference of state policy organizations.
Yes,
just like you.
A bunch of state policy organizations. This is actually my 8th one.
Wow.
But lots of state policy people. I think they said there's 1,600 people there this year.
Holy cow. Yeah.
we are two of 1,600.
Yeah, so it's like a place where people who study state policy and people who are trying to make decisions, they all get together and talk about best practices, share ideas.
Professional development, idea sharing, go have fun and go to Cubs games, all of the above.
Yeah. So how did you end up getting into public policy in Tennessee?
Yeah, so I always knew I wanted to do something in the political world, and I actually grew up in Alabama, started my career in Alabama, and started at a political party, actually. And it didn't take me long to realize that doing work for politics, working for people wasn't right for me, because people can change their ideas. People can let you down, people can change, but policies are always going to stay the same.
Yeah.
So I'm always going to believe in free market, small government, individual liberty, and those things are never going to change. Some of our ideas and some of our methods might, but those principles are always going to be the same, and it's going to be something that I can always stay behind. Whereas working for a candidate or an elected official, people change their minds. They just do. So I needed to do something that I could believe in no matter what, and that got me into the policy world.
Awesome.
And then about 5 years ago, got a call from Beacon and did an interview, and before I knew it, I was living in Nashville.
That's really cool.
Which is great.
So since you've been there, what are some of the things that you've been proudest of that you've worked on?
Well, I am a huge school choice fan. Mm-hmm. It comes from my background. I grew up in a small town in Alabama where the public school system just was not up to par. And my mom just did everything she could, worked so hard to send us to a private school, and I'm so thankful for that. But the sacrifices that we had to make having to do that because the public schools just weren't quality there. Mm-hmm. Watching her do that, it really informed how I feel about school choice and giving children opportunities. And so a few years ago, we passed Tennessee's first ESA program, and it was limited to 2 counties, but students in Shelby County, which is Memphis, and Davidson County, which is Nashville, if they meet certain criteria, they can get an education savings account and go to a school of their choice, a private school, and get out of a public school system that might not be serving them. And so I'm so proud of that. This year we expanded it to Chattanooga, and we're going to keep working to expand it until all students have education options. And it's something that's just always been so important to me, and I'm so thankful to have been part of it in Nashville. That's just huge.
Yeah, something you can feel good about.
Yes, feel so good about it.
How did you guys, so who do you work with when you want to do stuff like that? I mean, are you working with your state legislators?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the Beacon Center actually has an advocacy partner called Beacon Impact, and it's a 501c4, so we have lobbyists. I technically split time between Beacon Center and Beacon Impact, and so we actually go to the legislature and lobby members to vote on these things. We also have coalition partners, tons of coalition partners on various things. We had partners when we worked on our right to work constitutional amendment, which is also such a huge victory for Tennesseans. We have partners in education, partners in healthcare, and then the best job in our whole organization, I think, is my job, because I get to work with just people.
Yeah.
So I get to talk to people about their story and tell their story to legislators and to other Tennesseans to make them grasp the fact that there are government policies that don't serve people, and we need to change those policies. And so the thought of a child being zoned for a school by their zip code rather than their specific educational needs, like that doesn't work for everybody. And so I get to work with those families and tell their stories and hear about them and elevate their stories to the lawmakers. And I think it's the most rewarding job. I'm a little biased, but I think it's the best.
And it's cool. It's cool that you mentioned that it's bringing it back to the people and what it's all about, right? Because like I think sometimes people just get thinking about laws and policies, and it gets very like heady.
So heady.
Yeah, but it's really about helping people.
Right, and that part is necessary in a think tank. That's kind of our process, is figure out what Tennesseans need. We do our research, and then we take it up there. So the heady stuff is necessary, but I think that what's different about what we do versus a lot of other organizations in policy spaces is we go to the people first, and then we see what they need, and we solve that specific problem.
It sounds like you guys have been achieving a lot of great things out in Tennessee.
So many great things. I have to brag on our team also. We got right to work put in the state constitution. Like, that's just a huge deal. It wasn't really under attack, but we were worried that one day it would be. And so we got way out in front of that, and then 70% of Tennesseans voted yes to put right to work in our state constitution.
And explain a right to work for people who might not be familiar with it.
Right to work simply means that a worker can choose to join or not to join a union. There's no union requirement in order to work at a company that has a union. So if you go to work at an auto manufacturer that is unionized, in non-right to work states, you're joining that union. In a state like Tennessee, a right to work state, you are under no obligation to join a union. You obviously can if you so choose, but it's all about the choice. It's that the workers have a choice whether or not they want to join a union and pay dues. And Tennessee was already a right-to-work state. It had been for years, but there were so many threats of attack coming from Washington, D.C. Oh, we're going to ban right-to-work nationwide. And so we kind of looked ahead and thought, if they do this, it would be devastating for our economy. So we started the 3-year-long process of putting it in the state constitution. And then last fall, November 8th, I'll never forget it, Tennesseans overwhelmingly voted to put right to work in our state's constitution. And that was, when you talk about blood, sweat, and tears, honey, that was a journey. But we did it. It was so worth it.
Yeah, so what does that entail? I mean, getting something into Tennessee's constitution.
Oh,
you
Lord.
said it was 3 years long.
It is the 3-year process. So in the first year, you introduce the bill, and you have to just have a simple majority of the legislature. The second year, you have to have a supermajority of yes votes in order to get it placed on the ballot in the third year. And so it was a kind of a creative approach that we took to it, where we had actual legislators co-sponsor the bill, and then those co-sponsors were then the county chairman for the ballot committee for Amendment 1. And so the people who actually co-sponsored the bill and voted for it while it was in the legislature then went back to their people and they were like, hey guys, this is kind of a thing. You should vote yes on it. When we were watching the votes rolling in, we were nervous. We didn't know how people were going to respond to right to work, because all over the media it was being conflated with employment at will. And people understood it, and they said yes on one. And that was a gift.
Very cool.
It was really awesome. So
you can celebrate. That's really cool. So you have some good plans ahead. And
yeah, big things coming.
Do you like pizza, by the way?
Oh, I love pizza.
I didn't even ask you.
I love pizza. I'm a pizza girl. I live on cheese, so
great.
Just load it up.
Okay, Taylor, this is Pisano's.
And this is my first ever Chicago deep dish experience.
Really?
So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, you're going to love it. This is a deep dish pepperoni.
Okay.
Let me get some for you.
Okay. Oh yeah, all that cheese.
Yeah. Now this holds together pretty well, but feel free to use a fork and knife.
It's going to have to be a fork and knife situation, I think.
You mentioned you guys did some healthcare work. Is that what
Yeah,
you're talking
healthcare
about?
access.
Okay.
There's still certificate of need laws in Tennessee, which prevents people from being able to access healthcare.
Yeah, certificate of need is something.
It's a government issued permission slip to a healthcare organization to grow, expand, open up new locations, add things to their hospitals. So why is that a thing? You know, if you were to tell me that there was a street corner and on 3 corners there was a Zaxby's, a Popeyes, and a McDonald's, and Chick-fil-A wanted to open on the 4th.
Right.
But they had to get approval from the Zaxby's, the Popeyes, and the McDonald's before they could open up on the 4th corner. Would their competitors want Chick-fil-A to come in and try to sell chicken while they're selling chicken? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
That's what certificate of need is on a much larger and more serious scale.
Yeah.
So healthcare companies have to go before a board of their competitors to get a certificate that they're needed in this area.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
And it's not good for patient outcomes. There have been studies that say that patient outcomes are lower in certificate of need states. And we want Tennessee to have the best. We want Tennessee to have the best of everything.
Yeah.
And healthcare outcomes are kind of at the top of that list, I would say.
Right. And it probably makes things more expensive, and it all adds up.
Much more expensive. I mean, when you don't have a lot of competition in the market, then the ones that exist can jack up their price as high as they want to.
Yeah.
And it's not good for the consumer at all. How's the ravioli?
It's good.
I'm about to
try some of the pizza.
About to give this a shot.
Yeah. You can't throw back, a whole probably
No.
pie, but
No. That's so dense. Honestly, I kind of love it.
yeah.
That's good. Yeah, I'm a fan. I didn't know if I would like it, but I'm a fan.
When we were in the car, you mentioned the like entrepreneurship and cultivating that kind of stuff in Tennessee. Like So what does an organization like yours do to get there?
Well, we got innovative about it. We formed an entrepreneurship and innovation council, which consisted of entrepreneurs and innovators in Tennessee who could advise us on what the policies the government needed to take care of to make it a friendlier state for innovation. So they came up with a whole booklet of solutions, one of them being to work on the business tax in Tennessee, the gross receipts tax. There is this tax that businesses in Tennessee have to pay on their top line, not on their bottom line, on their top line. And it was just ridiculous. And all these small businesses were being pummeled by this tax. And so this year we reformed the business tax, and now it excludes businesses that make under a certain amount of money. So these small businesses that aren't making, maybe not even breaking even in their first and second year, now no longer have to pay this tax on top of their business expenses starting out. So there are so many small things that seem small that we can do in Tennessee that are going to have an outsized impact on business owners and innovators and things like that, looking at blockchain technology. And I feel like when the government, you can probably speak to this because of your work at Locke, when a new thing comes up, the government will just say, we don't know how to regulate it, we're just going to throw it in this box, or we're just going to throw it under this regulation. When I think that there should be more freedom for innovators, because that's what we want to do. Some of the greatest things have come from innovation. All the greatest things have come from innovation. Why are we stifling that instead of encouraging it? That's what we want to do in Tennessee.
Right. So you're talking about like creating some sort of space for entrepreneurship, for ideas to happen before they get regulated. At least give them a chance before you throw the regulations on.
And just a favorable climate for them, where people can come and start their business in Tennessee, and people say, Tennessee's where I want to start my business. Not, well, I live here, so I guess I got to do this here. But the people come to Tennessee and say, this is such a great climate. This is where I want to start my business.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to live here and I want to invest here.
Yeah, and then that brings us to when they do get there. Your Tennessee's growing and getting bigger, and you guys probably have a similar problem to us, where the housing starts getting more expensive as people come in. And I know that you guys are doing some things to alleviate that.
To try to help, I tend to think that whenever the government gets involved, things get more expensive. And the same thing has happened with housing. I'm sure this is a problem in North Carolina because people are leaving all the states with bad tax policy and stuff and coming to our states for a little dose of freedom and a little more money in their pockets. But you look at things like zoning regulations, right? In Nashville, there's 11% of Nashville that is zoned for apartments. So people aren't allowed to grow up, they're having to grow out. And there's also just a lack of supply and so much demand for homes. So we need to look at these zoning laws and make sure they're actually serving the purposes that they need to be serving, and there's not just an abundance of these laws that are preventing people from living in good places. We also need to look at property taxes. How are our property taxes being spent? Is there a better way that we can spend them so that we don't have to continue raising them instead of paying for, I don't know, professional sports stadiums? Maybe we can devote our existing tax revenue to roads and schools and things so that the government's not just raising them year after year. There are so many things that we can do to make Tennessee a even better place to live. And like actually live, like not just work and send your kids to school, but like live in a home. More affordable, more accessible, and it has everything to do with the government getting out of the way instead of getting more involved.
Great. Well, Taylor, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Sharing some pizza and
thank you for sharing your pizza with me. Honestly, Chicago pizza's a good vibe.
Yeah, I love it too.
Feels good.
We'd like to thank Taylor Dawson again from the Beacon Center of Tennessee. If you want to read more about all the amazing work they're doing, check out beacontn.org. And please let us know your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like and share our videos, and as always, subscribe to the John Locke Foundation on YouTube.